What's up, guys? D-Rock 1992 here. The next actor who I'm going to talk about in my About series is Ben Stiller. Ben Stiller has been a very good actor for a long time. He's one of my favorite comedic actors. He really plays the awkward man really well. If you notice in a lot of his movies, he's just an awkward person. You know, that's really what I can describe him as. He definitely is that type of guy. But he's had that personality in his movies for a long time, and he's been successful for it. So without further ado, I'm going to get into it. He comes out with, in 1987, his film debut is actually a Steven Spielberg movie, Empire of the Sun. And I'm going to talk about Spielberg as I go in a later video. But Empire of the Sun, he makes his debut in that movie. Also has Christian Bale in it, who I'll probably talk about also. But he makes his debut in Empire of the Sun. A couple years later, in 1989, he comes out with Next of Kin, plays a supporting role as a mob boss, a mob associate, son of a mobster. In this movie. In this movie, it's basically rednecks against mobsters. I've watched it before, and I like the movie. It's pretty good. Early role for him, for Ben Stiller. In 1994, he comes out with Reality Bites. And this is definitely a significant movie. It's his first directorial movie, his first movie where he's a director, and he also plays a role in this movie, I think, with Winona Ryder and Ethan Hawke. In 1996, there's a couple ones that are worth mentioning. He directs and stars in The Cable Guy. This is a Jim Carrey movie. I've never watched it, but I know that Jim Carrey's a cable guy who develops an unhealthy relationship with a guy who he hooks up cable for. The guy's played by Matthew Broderick. But the Cable Guy, definitely one. He had directed before in Reality Bites, so he was kind of known then, a little bit. In the Sandler classic Happy Gilmore, also in 1996, he makes an uncredited appearance as a nursing home orderly, who's a pretty bad one, a pretty abusive guy, which is kind of funny. But 1998, a couple years later, he comes out with his breakthrough role, which is very funny. And I've talked about this one before with Cameron Diaz. He comes out with There's Something About Mary. Cameron Diaz plays Mary. Basically, Ben Stiller's character is a guy who pays a private investigator to kind of look into, try to find Mary. This private investigator, played by Matt Dillon, falls in love with Mary. And there's a whole more than a love triangle. Ben Stiller loves her, Brett Favre loves her, Matt Dillon loves her, a lot of different people love her. But Ben Stiller plays the title guy. If you've never watched this movie before, I have once. The scene in particular that is extremely funny is where he gets his penis and testicles caught into a zipper at the beginning of the film when he takes Mary on a prom date. As he's preparing to do that, he gets it stuck, and it's funny when a fireman comes in. He laughs at the whole situation. Police officer comes in. He's like, all right, we're going to get this out. A 1 and a 2 and a 3. Flashes out to a guy who's, we got a bleeder! And that's just extremely funny. But it's awkward to the max, pretty much, with this Stiller's character. But there's something about Mary was a breakout role for Ben Stiller as well as Cameron Diaz. In 1999, this movie isn't as well known to probably outside fans. You know, fans who haven't watched a lot of Stiller movies probably don't know this one. Mystery Men in 1999. This one, he plays a superhero, Mr. Furious. These superheroes that don't really have superpowers of enviable interest, they have to save this superhero who has powers of enviable interest from a villain. But Mystery Men, one of those underrated films probably of Ben Stiller's career. Certainly. In 2000, he comes out with Meet the Parents. And this is one of his couple movie franchises. So he plays Gaylord Greg Fokker. He's in love with this woman, this teacher, but he has to meet her parents. The father is played by Robert De Niro. He is very he does not trust Gaylord Fokker, and he makes it known, definitely. It's funny, the chemistry between the two, De Niro and Stiller. But a funny movie, definitely. A funny movie in its own right. Also in 2000, he comes out with Keeping the Faith. He stars in this movie with Edward Norton and Jenna Elfman. It's two priests, I believe, falling in love with the same woman, and they battle over her, basically. In 2001, Ben Stiller comes out with The Royal Tenenbaums. He plays one of the Tenenbaum siblings. This is where the Tenenbaum siblings, they have to... I've watched this movie. This is a Wes Anderson film. If you know Wes Anderson and his work, he does some very strange work, but it's work that's been critically received. Very critically received for a long time. Ben Stiller plays in this movie with Gwyneth Paltrow, Gene Hackman, Angelica Houston, Owen Wilson, one of his many... Ben Stiller and Owen Wilson in particular have been in a lot of movies together. Certainly. But, also in 2001, he comes out with probably his biggest role, and that's Zoolander. Again, he's Derek Zoolander. He's a fashion model, and he gets brainwashed into killing the Prime Minister of Malaysia by Will Ferrell's character, Mugatu. This is Will Ferrell's in this movie, Ben Stiller, Owen Wilson, Christine Taylor, who is actually... She's been in a few movies with Ben Stiller, and she's also Ben Stiller's wife in real life. And Christine Taylor is pretty funny as well. But Zoolander, definitely one of Ben Stiller's most prominent roles. 2003, Stiller comes out with Duplex. Drew Barrymore is in this movie. This is where I think they try to get rid of their upstairs neighbor who is a nuisance to be around or something like that. But Ben Stiller and Drew Barrymore star in this film. 2004, the sequel to Meet the Parents comes out 2004, first of all, is a big year for Ben Stiller. He's in a lot of good comedy movies in this particular year. Meet the Fockers is the sequel to Meet the Parents. This is where Stiller's character's wife, Greg Focker and his wife, and her parents have to meet his parents, played by Barbra Streisand and Dustin Hoffman. So there's a lot of interesting things that go on there. And so Meet the Fockers was one of them. He appears in an uncredited role in Anchorman as one of the rival newscasters to Ron Burgundy's character. He appears in Dodgeball, a true underdog story as the villain White Goodman. I told you about Dodgeball already. And a couple other ones, Starsky and Hutch. You know, he plays Starsky. Owen Wilson plays Hutch. 2004 also, he comes out with Along Came Polly. This is his collaboration with Jennifer Aniston. This is where Ben Stiller's character gets cheated on by his newlywed wife. He's upset, he breaks up with her, and then he meets Polly, who is everything that Stiller's character is not. They're opposite personalities, yet they find each other. In 2005, Ben Stiller starts with another movie franchise of his. He plays the main character in the animated series Madagascar. He plays the main character. He plays, I think, the lion. Yeah, he plays the lion. In this series as well, you have Chris Rock, David Schwimmer from Friends, Jada Pinkett Smith, and a few other ones as well. But Madagascar, first movie there, another movie franchise of Ben Stiller's. In 2006, he comes out with Night at the Museum, another movie franchise, another start to it. Night at the Museum, for those of you who haven't watched it, it is that movie where all the museum artifacts come to life at night. He's a security guard at the museum where these artifacts come to life, and he interacts with these guys. He has to stop an evil plot in this movie. In 2007, he comes out with The Heartbreak Kid. I've watched a lot of Ben Stiller films. This one's the worst out of all of them. I ranted on and on about the ending of this movie before I reviewed this movie. So I'm not going to rant about it again, but it's the worst of all the Ben Stiller movies that I've watched personally. 2008, a pretty big year for him. Tropic Thunder comes out. This is a very funny movie. Tropic Thunder, for those of you who don't know, he's starring in a movie within a movie. He's the main star of a movie within a movie with Robert Downey Jr., Jack Black, and in this, Downey Jr., Jack Black, and the whole gang, they have to try to save Stiller's character because he's being held captive by some big fans of his. And that's all I'm going to really say about it. Tropic Thunder, check it out if you haven't seen it. It's a good watch. One of Stiller's best movies. The sequel to Madagascar comes out in 2008. Madagascar: Escape to Africa. In 2009, he comes out with the first sequel to Night at the Museum, Night at the Museum: Battle of the Smithsonian. He stars in this one with Amy Adams. She plays Amelia Earhart. an artifact. But in this one, they have to stop the villain, played by Hank Azaria, from unleashing evil upon the museum, I think. Something like that. But 2009 comes out with that sequel. In 2010, he plays a supporting role in Megamind, the animated movie with Will Ferrell. And he also stars in the sequel, the second sequel to the Meet the Parents and Meet the Fockers, Little Fockers. I think where you meet the children. Basically, the children of Little Fockers. And, excuse me. This one was not critically reviewed. It was not very well done. I mean, it's the worst one out of those three movies. Meet the Parents and Meet the Fockers were better movies than Little Fockers. Just did not do well. In 2011, Stiller comes out with Tower Heist. This a good one, definitely. He's in this movie with Casey Affleck, Alan Alda, Eddie Murphy. Tower Heist is that movie where Ben Stiller is an employee at a hotel, and his boss discovers that his boss is stealing money, basically, from everybody at that hotel. So they plan to break into that tower and steal the money back and give it. It's kind of a modern Robin Hood story. But check out Tower Heist. It is a good watch. 2012, he comes out with Madagascar 3, Europe's Most Wanted, and then The Watch. That movie that I talked about with Vince Vaughn in Vince Vaughn's video. But The Watch, definitely a... definitely, I want to see it. I haven't seen it before, but I'd like to. Definitely. Last year, 2013, he comes out with another sequel. And I think... Actually, it's a Valentine's Day special of Madagascar, Madly Madagascar. And then, he stars in The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, which he also is a director for. It's a romantic adventure comedy drama film, all in one. This is an adaptation, the second film adaptation of a short story made in 1939 by a guy named James Thurber. This is where an ordinary guy does out of ordinary things. Very unordinary things for an ordinary person. That's basically, I think, what it's about. He stars in this movie with Kristen Wiig, the love interest of Walter Mitty. But that was a big one that he did recently. There's going to be a couple... That's really it right now for his career. But 2014, later on in 2014 this year, in December 19th, the final sequel to Night at the Museum, Secret of the Tomb, is going to be coming out. Ben Stiller, Rebel Wilson, Robin Williams in one of his final movie roles, and Owen Wilson. This one should be good. It should be a good watch. I've watched the first two. I don't know if I watched the first one in its entirety, but these Night at the Museum movies, they're more family friendly than other Ben Stiller films. But this is going to be the final Night at the Museum movie. Next year, 2015, he's going to star in a movie called While We're Young. It's Actually, I think it just came out. Yeah, an independent film. He stars in this one with Naomi Watts, Amanda Seyfried, Adam Driver. Um, so that's another movie to take a look at. And then in 2018, he's going to come out with another Madagascar sequel. Madagascar 4 is the title of it right now. It's scheduled to be released on May 18th, 2018. So it's going to be a while, but Madagascar 4 will be coming definitely. So that's really it for Ben Stiller's career in general in the movies. He's had a long career. He's had a very nice career. He's one of the better comedians out there. Now, as a director, he's directed Reality Bites, his first directorial movie. He directed The Cable Guy, Zoolander, Tropic Thunder, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. And he's going to be directing a Pinocchio version, a movie version of Pinocchio, coming up, I believe. Now, as for television, I don't think a lot of people know this, but I think Stiller was a writer on SNL. He's been on SNL a few times for 4 episodes. There's Something About Mary really broke out. I mean, it was a breakout role for Ben Stiller, but the TV show that really opened eyes to Ben Stiller was The Ben Stiller Show. It only was on for a season, but he received a Primetime Emmy Award for it. It was a variety show, The Ben Stiller Show. Actually, it was 2 sketch comedy television shows. It was created by Ben Stiller and Judd Apatow. 13 episodes, not very big, definitely not. It didn't last a long time, but this show was significant because it got him a Primetime Emmy Award. Ben Stiller appeared on an episode of Friends in 1997. In 2002, he appeared on The Simpsons on an episode. He appeared on Sesame Street in 2000. The King of Queens in 2002. This was kind of a neat one. His father is Jerry Stiller. Jerry Stiller, best known as George Costanza's father on The Seinfeld, and Leah Remini's father on The King of Queens. They kind of swap roles. He plays Jerry Stiller's character's father in a flashback. So I think that's kind of neat. He appeared on King of the Hill. Don't want to, no offense to King of the Hill fans, but I really do not like that show. He appears on Arrested Development in 4 episodes. Curb Your Enthusiasm, 3 episodes. Family Guy as himself in 2007. The Disney show Phineas and Ferb a couple of times in 2010 and 2011. Take 2 with Phineas and Ferb, I guess, was the one in 2011. But that's pretty much it. I mean, that's the television career to really talk about there with Ben Stiller. Like I said, he hasn't really been big in television because he hasn't had to be. He's a movie star, definitely. Been in a lot of music videos. The All-Star music video from Smash Mouth is the biggest one, definitely. But yeah, that is that's it for Ben Stiller. I mean, this guy, you know, the horizon is high for him. I think he's going to be a big star in the near future, definitely. He is he's going to be even more of a star probably. Here's to hoping, definitely. But that is it for Ben Stiller. D-Rock 1992 out.